Well, thank you. And good afternoon to everybody. I will not be long. I know you've been listening to us for quite a while, and some of you may have some pertinent comments. I just wanted to focus my intervention on integrating the issue of energy, water, and food. Sometimes we think about energy, then we switch off, think about water, switch off, and then think about food. But I will just paint a scenario for you just now. For us to be able to get water, for example, in a typical African village, you have to pump the water from the ground, and for that you need energy. And once you pump the water, you need to distribute that water for you to use in agriculture, which provides you food at the end of the day. So what I'm trying to say is all three of these key areas, which is linked to sustainable development, but also to link to alleviating poverty, can be integrated. And we need to think about how we have ministers of water, ministers of energy, and ministers of agriculture, but sometimes we think in our own sectors, and I think we need to be working together a lot more to see how we can integrate policies, but also technologies and approaches to address a common goal, and that is to alleviate poverty and to bring wealth and jobs and other opportunities to people in villages and communities as well. When we also talk about climate change, we're also talking about energy. And this brings me again to the premise which I was discussing with some of the parliamentarians earlier today, that focusing on the solutions for climate change will also help us to focus on solutions for poverty and so for sustainable development, because climate change, the underlying problems with climate change is, of course, overconsumption, overproduction, using fossil fuels, which generates greenhouse gases, which in turn creates the problems that we have today. So from a small island state perspective, the Seychelles is located in the east of Africa, in the Indian Ocean, and shares a number of the concerns raised today, although we are very small and don't share other issues that mainland Africa shares. But we work together with mainland Africa to look at some of these common problems, and bringing together the different sectors that we have within our economies to see how we can harness the challenges that we have in those different sectors to address the issue of sustainable development. There was a mention of tourism, so I will spend the last couple of minutes on tourism, and I think this is a very important area which Seychelles depends on economically. Linking tourism to sustainable development is very important, and one of the initial policies we've always had in the Seychelles is seeing how the proceeds of tourism can trickle to everybody. That means not only the investors benefit, not only the people involved in tourism benefit, but the whole country benefits. How do you integrate agro-tourism, for example, allowing the local farmers to sell to the hotels, to sell to the tourism? How do we integrate forestry? My good colleague from Benin talked a lot about the tree planting. We haven't had millions of trees planted because we still have millions of trees, but we've had a 20,000 tree initiative, and that's 20,000. And everybody asks us in Seychelles, why are you planting 20,000 trees? We already have millions of trees. And we said, look, we need, for every tree that you cut down, it takes 20 years plus for that tree to grow. So we are catching up with the trees that we've been cutting down in the last 20 or 30 years or so. So the tree planting needs to continue, and Africa needs trees, because trees, to me, is wealth. Any typical person in Africa, he says the number you are judged, your wealth is judged by the number of cows, the number of cattle you have. And this is still very much a global knowledge when we look at the economic development. Little did we know before 2008 that money in the bank guarantees the future, but after 2008, with the collapse of the global banks, we saw that money is not worth anything anymore. But people who had a tree at the back of their home where they could get fruits and vegetables, then they could have a life. So trees for me are more important than money in the bank. And I think we as Africans realized that thousands of years ago, and that's why the environment for us is the starting point. This is from where we depart, and investments in natural capital in my view, is important. And this is what supports tourism, supports development, supports forestry, or any other activities you want to do. So I would support, our emphasis on developing our natural capital, because through natural capital, then you can create other and different kinds of jobs, and also address the issue of energy, and also address the most important issue that we face today is food security in Africa. Food security in Seychelles is also a big issue. When prices of commodities went up in the world about 3-4 years ago, we suddenly turned around and said, wow, we need to do agriculture. We need to seriously have some measures of security, because it's one thing to be able to buy food, but if you cannot afford it, it's a different matter. So there's been this really renaissance in the Seychelles for us to put emphasis on growing our own food. We cannot grow everything, but we can grow what we can grow, we need to grow. And rather than just depend on importations or other sources of food. Reducing the impact of drought is an important issue for mainland Africa, but also for Seychelles. With climate change, we've seen changes in weather patterns where today we get too much rain, which causes flooding. And I will share with my colleague in Mozambique, the country that faces a number of floods, which has devastated the country. But on the other hand, we get too little water, and then we have drought. So we can never say we have the perfect of everything. So we have to devise integrated approaches on how we manage too much water and also too little water, so that our people can continue to develop effectively. So addressing drought within the context of both energy, water, and food security, I think, are very important issues. So I will leave it here, because I hope I've been able just to tease out some of the important issues that we as Africans face in managing sustainable development in our continent. Thank you.
Thank you.